Hello, and welcome to Andy's Code Vault. Today I want to talk about Git for Unity game development. I'm going to talk about what Git is and why you might want to use it. I'm also going to walk you through installing Git on your local system. Then I will briefly describe the most common Git commands and show you how to clone an existing repo and how to create a new repo for your Unity game. Git is a source control repository and version control system. Basically, it keeps track of your files and breaks it into small incremental changes. It will keep track of all the changes you make to each file and will be able to tell you who wrote each line of code and when it was written. It's extremely helpful for team development projects, both small and large. It can also be helpful if you're an independent game developer working on your own. When your projects get large, even when you are working by yourself, you may forget when or why you implemented a line of code or added some object to your project, and Git will help you keep track of all of that. But I think the biggest advantage to using source control for an indie developer is that there are a lot of online websites that will store your source code for you for free, and most of them use Git. It is really nice to be able to store all your code in one place. If your computer were to crash, you would not lose any work that you had pushed to your repository. Everything would be available for download once you get your new computer set up. Also, if you have multiple computers, like I do, I have a laptop and a desktop, and I can work on both. I just have to check in my code on one computer and it will be available on the other. Also, having your code in an online repo can be a great way to share your code with others. If you are applying for a job and maybe you lack the experience employers are looking for, you could use your online repo in place of work experiences on your resume. The three source control websites that I have experience with are GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. All have free unlimited repositories that you can create and upload onto their sites. It's great that you don't have to set up and pay for your online storage yourself, and you still get to own your own code and can even make your repos private so that others cannot see them. There are two key concepts to understanding Git, and that is commits and branches. You can think of a commit as a collection of changes to your code. When you make a commit, Git will take all of your changes and store them in the commit. For a branch, you can think of it as a chain of commits strung together. When you create a GitHub repository, it will automatically create a main branch. The main branch is your starting point, and you can create other branches off of your main. So if you want to install Git, and you'll need to install Git before you run any instructions in this video, here's a good guide on github.com. So basically you can go here and read this, and it'll explain how to install it on either Windows or Mac. And if you're on Windows, you click this link here, which actually goes to another website called Git for Windows, and you can just download it here. So I recommend installing it here and just select all the default settings. The first command I want to talk about is Git Status. Git Status will basically tell you the status of the repo you are in. It will tell if you have any changes that you need to be checked in, or if you have merge conflicts, or if you are all up to date. So here in my command prompt, I'm in a repo called New Super Cool Project, and I want to know the status of the repo. I just type in Git Status and it will tell me. Here it says I'm on branch main, and it says I'm all up to date and there's nothing to commit. I'm working on a clean tree. That means there's basically nothing has changed in my project. Let's do a dir and take a look. So we got some files here. This is basically just an empty Unity project, but I've got a readme file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the readme.md to readme.md, readme2.md. So now I've created a new file. I'm going to type in Git Status. And here it says, okay, you have an untracked file. So this is an updated status, and it's going to tell me that I need to add a file. This is an example of where you'd use Git Status to see what's changed. And here's telling you that readme2 has changed or has been created as a new file. Okay, so that brings me to the next command that I want to talk about. That is Git Add. Git Add just basically adds new files to your repo. But going back to Git Status, here in my command prompt, sometimes Git Status will actually tell you, and Git does this a lot, it tells you what commands you actually need to run. So you don't necessarily need to remember them all because Git will tell you, but it's good to know these basic commands. So I'm going to type in git add readme2.md. Now that's added to my repo. Let's do another Git Status. And now it says changes to be committed. and it shows in green that I've added a new file, readme2.md. Okay, but what about if I've just edited a file instead of just added it? Let's see what that looks like in Git Status. I'm going to go to the Windows Explorer by typing in Explorer dot. And then I'm going to take a look at my README and I'm going to edit that. I'm going to open it with Notepad. Okay, now I'm just going to add a line of text and I'm going to save it. And then going back to my my command prompt, I'm going to type in a Git Status. So now it's saying you've got changes to be committed, README 2, but then over there in red, changes not staged for commit. So Git Add is actually necessary for adding new files, but also necessary if you make changes to existing files, you still need to add them in order for you to check in your changes. So I'm going to type in Git Add, and I could type in the readme.md, but I'm going to show you a shorthand. If you want to add multiple files, at the same time you type in --all, and that's going to add everything that needed to be added. So I can go back to Git Status. Now we have two files in green, and it's telling me that one is modified and the other is a new file. So that brings me to my next command, Git Commit. So Git Commit is once you've added your changes to be staged, then you commit those changes to the repository. So the way I like to do it is I type in Git Commit -m, and then I do quotes and I type in what has been changed. And I'm going to say updates to readme files. And I'm going to press enter, and then it says 2 files changed, and it says 3 inserts. That means 3 lines have been changed. Now I'm going to go do Git Status again. And what does it say? It says, okay, you're on branch main. Your branch is ahead of origin main by 1 commit. So I've committed the changes to my local machine, but I haven't pushed them off to the server because I have this repo on GitHub. And in order to do that, leads me to my next command, which is Git Push. So basically, once you've added all your changes, you've committed it to your local repo, then you can do the push. So going back in here, I'm going to type in Git Push. And there it has pushed all my changes and uploaded them to the GitHub website, which is in Andy's Code Vault. So now if I do a Git Status, it says your branch is up to date, back what it said originally. So we're back to a clean tree. So the next command I want to talk about is Git Clone. And with Git Clone, you're actually going to pull in an existing repo onto your local machine. So the first thing you do is go to a GitHub website and find a repo that you want to clone. So then you can go into the repo and find the HTTPS link is one we want to find. And if you notice, it's actually the same link as we have up here in the browser window. So you can either copy it from here or from the browser. Either one works. I'm going to click this button here to copy it. Then what you do is you go into the parent directory of where you want to store your repo. So if you notice here, I've just got one folder. This is basically empty folder. Then I'm going to type in Git Clone, and then I'm going to paste in the value that I copied earlier. And to do that, I'm just going to right click into my command prompt and press enter. And now I'm going to do a dir. Took a look, and now we see I have the Tetramino project. And if you note, if I try to do a Git Status here, what happens? It says fatal, not a Git repository. That's because I'm in the parent directory. I have to cd into the Tetramino directory. And then I could do a Git Status. And it tells me I'm on branch main. Everything is up to date. Now, I haven't talked about branches yet. So we can type in git branch. And right now it just says main is the only branch that we have. But if I look in the repo, there's actually 5 branches here. We have main and then episodes 1 through 4 that already exist on this repo. So if I want to say follow along Tetramino episode 1 and I want to check out episode 1, what I do is I go into my command prompt and I type in git checkout episode 1. And it says I've switched to a new branch, episode 1. And so the checkout is just a way of switching branches. And now I can type in git branch here. And it says that I have 2 different branches and I'm currently selected on episode 1. It's not showing all the branches because it's only showing the branches that I have locally. Episode 1 and main. Okay, and the last command that I want to talk about is called Git Pull. And what Git Pull does is if there's been changes to the online repo that you don't have yet, and you want to get those changes, you type in Git Pull. So if someone has updated episode 1, I can type in Git Pull, and it's going to pull those onto my local machines. Here it says it's already up to date, but if there were changes, it would let me know what they were. The next thing I want to talk about is creating a repo for one of your own Unity games. So the first thing you need to do is to sign up with a GitHub account. And then once you do that, you can create your own repo. So you do that by hitting this plus over here and say new repository. And you can just say whatever you want to call it. Leave a description and create a README file from this description. And you can click here, add repo. You can make it public or private. So if you don't want to share your code, you can make it private and no one will be able to see it. Here's a very important thing to add is a git ignore file. And what it will do is the git ignore file adds files that will be ignored from the upload. So Unity generates a lot of files when you run the application, and these don't need to be stored into source control. You don't need to save it because it can generate every time you run the project. So you want to make sure and exclude those files because they can take up a lot of space, and you don't want to abuse the system since we're getting all this for free. So if we select here in the filters, I'll just type in Unity. They already have a Unity template for us, which is really nice. Then you just click the Create Repository button. And there you have it. You have your repo. But it's only on GitHub. You don't have it locally. So again, we're going to follow the process for cloning. And I'm going to copy this link. Of course, I could also copy it from the header in my browser window. So I'm going to copy it here and go to my command prompt. And I want to make sure I get out of the Tetramino project. And I want to do a Git Clone. And just type it in. Now, we're not in a repo. I'm going to do a dir. And now we have super awesome. And now I can do a Git Status. It says there's nothing to commit, it's a clean. So now I'm going to go into the Unity Hub. I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call it Super Awesome. I'm going to select my Super Awesome folder and click Create. Okay, so here I am in my new Super Awesome Unity project. I'm going to go here and just create a C# script. I'm just going to call it Super Awesome. And then I'll just go to my scene, create some shapes, probably a cube, and let's do a cylinder, and why not do a sphere? There, that is super awesome. So I'm just going to save this, and then I'm going to go into my command prompt in my super awesome directory. I'm going to do a dir. So one of the things I noticed is it's got super awesome directory inside the super awesome. So let's go into Explorer and take a look at this. All of the Unity files are in a subfolder. I could keep this like it is, or I could just copy all and paste all these into the parent directory. Either way will work. If I want to copy this, the first thing I want to make sure you do is you have to close down Unity before you copy it. And also, it's actually best to do a cut rather than copy. It'll take a long time to copy the files. A move is much faster than a copy. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it into the parent directory. That way I don't have that subfolder called Super Awesome as well. So now all my files are in the Super Awesome directory. And this is also important to note that you can do this with existing Unity projects too. So they don't have to be new Unity projects. You can create repos for existing projects and copy it into your repo just like I did here. And now I can go do a Git Status, and it's telling me there's a lot of files to add. It's not listing every single file because it's not going into the subdirectories, but what I want to do is just do a Git Add --all, so it'll add all the files. Now I can do a Git Status, and you can just look at all these files that are going to be added. There's our super awesome CS script. There's our sample scene.unity and that Unity meta. So these are all the files for our new project. So now I need to do a commit. -m, I'm adding my message. It is required to do a message. So I didn't mention that earlier in the commit. It is actually required to do a message. But you can write whatever you want. And then I'm just going to do a push. And then there it pushed it to my new repo, Super Awesome. So now we're gonna go here and refresh Super Awesome, and you should see all of our Unity files. So the one thing I want to do here is also, since I moved the directory in Unity Hub, I need to make sure and fix that. So let's go back into Unity Hub. And I'm actually going to go here and remove Super Awesome because it's got the wrong directory. So I'm going to remove it from the list. Yes. Then I'm going to add the project. And I'm going to select the Super Awesome folder. And now I should be able to open up my Super Awesome project. So here you have it. I've got my sphere, cube, and cylinder. And it's all uploaded and updated into Unity as well. Well, that concludes this episode. Thank you for watching.